This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Jaire Alexander has been offered a restructured contract by the Packers and is reportedly open to it. That's what The Athletic reported this morning. Alexander seemingly on his way out of town earlier this offseason, with the team reportedly open to trading him. But the two sides have stayed in contact, and it's not possible he will end up playing for the team after all. He has not taken part in the offseason program outside of the virtual portion at the start, but he is expected to report for the mandatory minicamp that starts June 10th, whether his deal is reworked or not. Meanwhile, quarterback Jordan Love, throughout the first pitch of the Brewers game yesterday, also spoke about his newest wide receivers, Matthew Colten and Savion Williams, during an interview with FanDuel Sports Network.
We picked up some good weapons with Matthew Colten, another receiver, Savion, in the third round. So we definitely got some weapons. I love all the guys we added. They've been in the building for like 2 weeks now with us working. So they're all excited to get to work. And here in a couple months.
The season still months away, but the team going to be on the field for OTAs this week and next week. Going to be the first 11-on-11 work of the offseason.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, it's game 2 of the Brewers and Red Sox tonight at American Family Field. A win would get Milwaukee back to 500 on the year. And the deadline for players to pull their names from the NBA draft is tomorrow night. Wisconsin's still waiting on guard John Blackwell to do so. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil. Print.
Swing and a drive. Deep left center. And welcome to Memorial Day.
This stadium gets rocking when there's a bunch of people in it, and definitely felt that today. So I thoroughly enjoyed pitching here in Milwaukee, and thank you for the fans for coming out today.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Some sound from yesterday's Brewers win over the Red Sox. That's where I want to begin for just a couple of minutes to start the show. I think we might spend a good amount of time on the Packers tonight because, as you heard in Zach's update, we got some news, some legitimate news. It's not wide-reaching. It's not a ton of news, but it's legit news about Jaire Alexander for Matt Schneidman in the Athletic. So I want to get to that, but I want to begin with the Brewers. Those were some of those sounds from yesterday. The home run from Jackson Chourio was great. The crowd that Trevor McGill was describing, very, very good. I think it peaked in the 7th. The God Bless America from Bob Keselowski, that was pretty darn cool. The rest of the game, it was a baseball game. There was pitches thrown and batters attempted to do things. It was I don't want to say it was a boring game, but it was a slog. And the Brewers won 3-2. And I shouldn't complain because they rolled a lineup out of, I don't even want to say it was a getaway day lineup, but no Terang, no Yelich. They played Monasterio. They played Daz Cameron against Garrett Crochet, who's one of the better starting pitchers in baseball. He's been awesome for the Red Sox. Not that that's helped them win, but they rolled out a lineup that you would see typically on a Sunday or on a getaway day against one of the best pitchers in baseball and won a game yesterday. So I'm not going to complain about that. The game frustrated me at times. Most Brewer games in 2025 frustrate me at times. So that's where I want to begin. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. And of course, it's not just a long 3-day weekend, right? We want to recognize and remember those who have sacrificed in service of our country. So I always want to say that because I never want to be the knob that's just like, hope you had a great 3-day weekend. Because, some of you understand, like, I'm not just casting it off as a casual 3-day weekend, right? There is deeper meaning behind it. So I just feel like I got to mention that because it is important to recognize. And I thought the Brewer game yesterday did a really good job of that. The God Bless America, and the Bob Keselowski, and the place was full and it was great. The baseball game was so-so. And I want to talk about that and what's going on with the Brewers. 2 guests tonight, both baseball related. So that's why I'm thinking the rest of the show, we probably talk a good amount of Packers and about the Jaire news that broke today, courtesy of Matt Schneidman. Chuck Freeman's going to be here at 4:35. He does the Locked On Brewers podcast, and he joins Bill on Tuesdays. Now, Bill was just wrapping up his vacation today, so I was filling in one more day, and I had a blast talking to Chuck. I've listened to Chuck for a long time when he was back with WSSP doing mornings with Wicket and then with our friend Bart Winkler, and I just love Chuck. And he's not on this show very often. I think he's been on once or twice, but a really fun interview, just wide-reaching. We covered a lot of Brewers things. Then we talked a little bit about Eau Claire because he went to school there and worked there, and that's where I'm from, at least that area, the Chippewa Valley. So we're going to hear from Chuck at the bottom of this hour, and then Colten Bartholomew at the very end of the show. We did talk a little bit of Badgers, but he covers the Badgers for the State Journal and for Badgers Extra. But he's also a diehard Red Sox fan, so he kind of gave us that angle of this series. Game 2 tonight, Game 3 tomorrow, and he's going to be at both of those games. He's in Milwaukee, so a little eye on the enemy, but fun. And we talked about some pertinent Badgers things as well. So that's kind of what's on tap. And lots of your phone calls, hopefully, too. 608-321-1670. And you can comment on the live stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, at Wisco Grant, that sort of thing. A quick Brewers thought before we get into the Jaire news. I think the Brewers are a little bit of a crossroads at 27-28. I think they're probably lucky to have that record. They split the weekend series at PNC, and they were lucky to split that series. They won the opener and then looked as bad as I've seen them look in games 2 and 3. And especially in game 2, it wasn't for a lack of effort. I thought Friday was maybe the most frustrating Brewers loss of the season. I remember Arizona when they had a big lead in the 9th. That game sucked to lose, but Friday was more frustrating than it sucked. Like, that loss to the Diamondbacks sucked. I don't know that Friday sucked as much as it was really frustrating. Maybe those two things are the same, but I think in baseball terms, at least in my mind, they're different. They used a lot of their horses. They tried really, really hard, and it just wasn't enough still to have Freddie and to use a couple of your high-leverage relievers, Koenig, Mears, Uribe, and to not get it done and to lose in extras again really sucked. And I'm starting to wonder what the Brewers' plan is for the season because they're one game under 500. And the actions of Pat Murphy lead me to believe that they're still really trying because he's asking a ton and going to his leverage relievers, his high-level relievers, Mears, McGill, Uribe, Koenig. We talked about this last week. It's going to those guys at a rate that's probably unsustainable. But also when a team is fighting for its season, now we're in late May, almost to June, like we start to look at the standings and we start to consider the record. We have enough of a sample. This Brewers team is fighting for their season and fighting to stay in contention. So I'd almost rather go down pushing the relievers and pushing guys a little bit harder. Maybe I'm okay with that. But that needs to be an organizational philosophy. If Pat Murphy is going to stick with this win tonight, we are fighting for every game attitude, then I want to see that at every level of the organization. And I don't know that we're seeing that at every level of the organization. I'm at the point where if the Brewers want to admit to themselves this team isn't very good, let's see if we can position ourselves best for the years to come because we have some good talent in Nashville, great talent in Nashville, great talent in Carolina, like a lot of good talent. And it seems like a couple of these guys, maybe Ortiz, maybe Durbin, not stopgaps, but they are not the long-term answers. They're not the 5-year answers. Maybe Churio is the only guy on this team currently. Him and Contreras, to a lesser degree, are probably some of the only long-term answers on this team. So if it is win tonight, and we're fighting and scrapping for every win, as we're seeing with Murphy in the bullpen, then I want to see that at every level of the organization, and I just don't know that we are. If this team was better, I think Jacob Mizorowski would be up here. I think the reason that the Brewers have not called him up is because they just don't really believe in this team. Internally, I don't think the Brewers at the top believe in this team. So they want to treat service time and options and certain logistical moves accordingly. Okay. So Mizorowski stays down. They optioned Logan Henderson yesterday. And I get they needed DL Hall. I get you need the middle relief. And I get that Logan Henderson wasn't going to pitch for another couple of days. So you need the help. I get that. But is he going to come back up and make his next start? Because he's truly been one of the Brewers' best, if not the best starting pitcher through 4 starts. He's been excellent. 6 innings, an earned run or 2 or less, lots of strikeouts, not a lot of walks. I want more of that. And the Brewers sent him down. He has more options. Okay, well, Priester has an option, but it's his last option. from what I have come to believe, and I think I have it correct, that if they option him now, he's out of options, and come next spring, he's got to break camp with the team or not make the team or be designated for assignment, right? I think Priester should be the one in the minors, or Chad Patrick. Something else I don't really understand. I think Chad Patrick's been fine, but if you look at his game log, about half of his starts, if you look at the final log or the final line, the line starts with a 4, as in he pitched 4 and change, 4 and a third, 4 and 2/3, 4 innings. That's not enough. And I guess I just don't get, because I listen to the radio broadcast or I watch the television broadcast, and when Grindle or Levering or Dillard or whoever, any of these guys describe Chad Patrick, he's been phenomenal this year. He's been, look at his numbers, right there at the top of the league with other rookies in the Rookie of the Year race in the NL. I'm like, whoa, he's been solid. You know who's been phenomenal is Logan Henderson, and he just got sent down again. And I understand that there are things past, he's a good player, he should stay up there. Options matter, and your day in the rotation matters, and DL Hall's needed at the major league level, and God bless Pat Murphy, he actually threw him yesterday. So I get all that. But if it really is win tonight, and you're trying to win as many games as possible and really stay in it in 2025, then some of these moves need to be handled a little bit differently. Or if you're punting on the season, which might be fair because I don't think they're very good, well, then stop running your leverage relievers into the ground, because you might actually be able to trade those guys, but not if their arms fall off first. So I'm just asking for some organizational consistency from manager to general manager to top of front office. That's what I'm asking for the Brewers, because I think they're operating in direct contradiction right now between multiple different levels. And that's when you get in trouble in an organization, when the coach and the general manager and the owners are all not pulling their rope in the same direction. That's when you get into trouble. I think for a long time it was Counsell, Stearns, Attanasio. They all had a clear understanding of what was going on and how to best attack the thing. I think there's contradiction right now, and I just want to see some consistency from all parts of the organization. I think that's fair. The Jaire news of the day. We'll talk about this before we take our first break, and I'll read direct some of the details from Matt Schneidman's story at The Athletic. Please subscribe or go read, support. I don't just mean to rip off his work, but these are important details. According to a source with knowledge of the situation, the Packers have proposed a restructured contract to Alexander, which tangibly demonstrates their interest in retaining the 2-time All-Pro quarterback during an offseason in which they have been open to trading him. Now, Packers fans, we've discussed, well, they'll probably try to restructure his deal. And we've treated that as a near certainty. It had not happened until now, or had not been reported until now. And I'm not tight with a lot of Packers people, but I know a couple of them decently well. And I ask, it's like, so have they talked to Alexander? And up until this point, everything I've heard is, no, they have not. They have not proposed a restructure or a pay cut or anything of any kind to Jaire. So this is a first. This is groundbreaking. This is the Packers taking a step that no one had previously taken. Alexander and his agent, John Thornton of Rock Nation, have not agreed to a restructuring yet. Alexander, 28, wants to remain in Green Bay and has 2 years remaining on a then-record contract extension he signed in 2022 for $21 million annually. According to Over the Cap, Alexander has the third highest cap number on the team for 2025, behind Jordan Love and Rashawn Gary. Alexander has a base salary of $16.5 million, a per-game roster bonus of $650, and a roster bonus, or a workout bonus, rather, of $700. I think this statement is telling. Alexander, 28, wants to remain in Green Bay and has 2 years remaining on his then record extension he signed in 2022 for $21 million annually. Of course he wants to stay, because the only way at this point that I see him getting out of Green Bay is if the Packers cut him. And if they cut him, he gets none of that. And he hits the open market, where he could sign with any team he wants. But I'm willing to bet, and I think this is the realization that Jaire and his representation have come to, I'm willing to bet that there's not a lump sum of money waiting for him if he hits the open market. I don't doubt there will be teams that show interest, but is a team going to call Alexander and be willing to give him 10, 15 million? I don't think anyone's giving him 21. And if anyone was, really cocksure about giving him 21 or 17 or whatever he's set to make this year, they maybe would have tried a little bit harder to trade for him. I think throughout the last couple of weeks, the Packers have realized not a huge trade market. And Jaire's camp has probably realized, you know what? If we hit the open market as a free agent after being cut, not a lot of money to be had. So I think Jaire's realizing, hey, I want to be here. I want to be here. I want to be here. Even if it means I restructure a little bit, because my eventual restructured deal is still probably more than I can make if I were to hit the open market. Because Jaire, it's the open market. If I was a general manager and I was contending and I could use a good corner, I'd call him and say, hey, we have XYZ cap space. We'd be willing to offer you a contract of $4 or $5 million with some incentives with a chance to make more. Whereas if the Packers are to negotiate a pay cut with him, if they cut his contract in half, if they cut his base salary in half, a huge reduction, 50%, he still stands to make $8 or $9 million this year on top of whatever incentives the Packers probably pile on the thing, which would only be fair because Jaire, if he plays, is still very, very good. So I think over the last couple of weeks, both sides have had a real feeling out process, right? Jaire's camp gauging the market and what money might be there if he were to be cut. The Packers gauging the market around the league if they were to try to trade him. And I think both sides realize, not a lot out there. So it's in our best interest to compromise the best that we can, which means a restructure. A player wouldn't take a restructure if they thought they could just get cut anyway and make the same amount of money somewhere else. I don't think that's the case. And the Packers, I don't know how hard they tried, but their phones were open for weeks. Not a whole lot. So I think now these two sides need to figure out a way. It's not going to be perfect for either side because I still think the Packers, if they restructure, will end up paying him more than they want. Jaire's not going to get the $21 million he's owed on his current deal, but a restructure probably still stands to pay him more than he'd make elsewhere, and the Packers get to retain his services and don't lose him for nothing. I think that's where this is trending. Now, the Packers might get a little bold and say, we want to cut your pay 80%. And if they do that, well, then Jaire and his camp might be, okay, well, screw you. We're just going to take our chances elsewhere. So I'm interested to know or to ponder, to think about what that restructure offer was. Because if it's in any way lucrative for Jaire's camp, I think he'd probably be wise to take it. When typically players, they don't take a pay cut for no reason. And no reason meaning, I'm still under contract, man. If I do nothing and you do nothing, I still make this money. So we can talk more about that on the other side. If you have any thoughts on what the Brewers did over the weekend, on what we just learned about Jaire and what that means for the Packers and Jaire Alexander moving forward, I'll take your calls on all of it or anything from the weekend. 608-321-1670. To you next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show. Chuck Freimund, Locked On Brewers podcast. I talked with him because he joins Bill's show every Tuesday at 11:30. I was hosting for Bill today. It was a fun interview. I love Chuck. So I'm going to play that for you coming up next segment. So we're going to be quick. It's a little bit of a longer interview. It's like 15 minutes. So I want to get your thoughts in. Brewers over the weekend. Pirates. Red Sox. They sent Henderson down. I don't like it. I understand kind of why they did it, but I still don't like it. Okay. The offense, the bullpen usage, everything on the table. And then the latest on Jaire from Nat Schneidman, that the Packers now have made contact and for the first time actually approached him about restructuring his deal in 2025. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant Bills, how we doing? I was going to say happy Monday. It is definitely Tuesday.
I am excellent, Vagabond John. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Hey, love your commentary on this Jaire Alexander situation. There was a fiery caller earlier on the Bill Michaels show that I thought probably stepped a couple of steps too far, but I agreed with a lot of his sentiment is, father time comes for everybody. Jaire Alexander is 28 years old. He hasn't been an all-pro since 2022. That's 3 years ago. Pro Football Focus had him rated the 25th best cornerback last season. I know PFF isn't the be-all, end-all, but it gives us some context. And he's the 5th highest paid corner. So there seems to be a small contingent of Packer fans out there that are still thinking about 2021 Jaire, and they think oh, we need to pay this guy because look who else is out there. And I'm here to tell you that the gap between someone like Carrington Valentine and Jaire Alexander in 2025 or 2026, I don't think is quite as big as, obviously Jaire Alexander 4 or 5 years ago. So there seems to be some angst with some part of the Packers contingent about the situation of we need to do anything we can to get him back.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it sounds like it's a possibility, whereas, a month or two ago, I think everybody kind of crossed him off in our minds. But, I'm interested in Jaire back as a Packer. It'd be really cool to see him start and end his career in Green Bay. Obviously, it doesn't happen a lot, especially in Green Bay. But I'm 100% with you that it's got to be for less than half of what he's making now. So great commentary. I figured I'd add a couple of stats there from the PFF and kind of the context, and excited to see what happens there.
Yeah, the call earlier the Vagabond John mentioned, appreciate it, John, was Doug from Luxembourg, who's just an all-time Wisconsin voice. I love when Doug calls. I'll pull some audio. Maybe I'll play that or part of the call. Maybe at 5 o'clock when we have a couple minutes. Just artwork. I didn't agree with a lot of what he said. Doug's point was basically, look, this guy's been nothing but a headache, in and out with injuries. You're never sure if you can count on him. Just get rid of him. And he actually compared him to David Bakhtiari, which interests me because I think I reached a point with David Bakhtiari towards the end where it's I don't really care how good he is when he plays because the damage done by the in and out and the uncertainty week to week is greater than the benefit of having him whenever you have him. Now, O-line, I think, is a little different than corner in that if your left tackle can play 1 week and not the next, you're potentially moving guys around. And that makes it difficult to game plan. That makes it difficult to keep the same alignment, which is always one of the biggest stats about a successful O-line and an offense that's consistent and productive and stable is you don't use a bunch of different combinations on the O-line, right? A team that struggles to pass protect or to run block or just a team that's disorganized. What do you always see on the screen? This is their 11th different combination used this year, right? You see that with bad O-lines or teams that are really injured or teams that are really miscombobulated. I feel like we've seen that with the Bears the last couple of years. All these different combinations, none of them work. A big sign of success at the O-line is you're keeping guys in the same spot and you have consistency week to week. It's really hard to do when your left tackle is in and out and in and out and in and out. So I understand that left tackle is different than corner. Those are two different positions, and the value of consistency at each probably is different. I don't know how different, but I'm willing to say that it's different. Although I like the Bakhtiari comp, and then I think there's peace of mind and there's security and there's stability in knowing this is who our corner will be. And we don't need to go through every week, Monday through Thursday, looking at the injury report, seeing who can practice, seeing who can walk through, seeing who can play. I might be with Doug and Vagabond John and others who's like, none of this is worth the headache. Even if you get the money down, and even if the contract is reasonable and the restructure makes sense, the difference between Jaire and some of these other guys isn't as big as maybe some Packers fans think. Although I am old enough to remember when Jaire played really well against the Cowboys in the postseason 2 years ago. Not in 2021, but in 2023, 2024. It's not that long ago, right? Or was that 23, 22 seasons ago, whatever it was. You know what I mean? It's not like we have to go all the way back to San Francisco or the Buccaneers game. COVID. Like, it's more recent than that. But if you're a Packers fan who thinks, I just want to be rid of the headache. Sometimes there's value in getting rid of a headache. I don't know how much value, but I think it's an interesting take and a thought process that's worth considering when the Packers and Jaire are going back and forth. I think this whole situation is like you have signed a lease with a roommate that's not working out. I think that's what this is. You signed the lease in June, and now we're in like November, December. And you're realizing that you actually don't work that well together as roommates. Early person, late person, morning, night, loud music, likes quiet, doesn't care if stuff is clean, neat freak, right? It's just clashing. And you get to December, you get to January, and you realize, hey, neither one of us want to break the lease. We don't want to deal with a subleaser. How can we just adjust things just enough where this is tolerable to accomplish a shared goal, to just make it to June 1, right? Or to make it another season. I think that's kind of what the Packers and Jaire are going through right now. And there might not be a compromise or a common ground that works for both. And maybe the Packers ended up cutting him post June 1. Could still happen. But I think both sides really have some motivation to get this done. I don't know if it's enough motivation, but I think there is some motivation. And I think that's what we learned today. It's like, well, the Packers couldn't trade him, and Jaire's camp would rather stay on possibly reduced pay than go out and see what's out there, because I don't think there is a ton out there. I just don't know if the motivation to compromise will be enough. That's what we'll have to stay tuned for the next probably week or two, I would imagine we'll know. 608-321-1670. One more call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is the Bronze Boomer who went to the game yesterday.
The Brewer game yesterday? It looked it looked beautiful. The crowd looked great. Was it fun?
Perfect weather.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not like you. I'm not that down on the team because I mean, even though you called this the golden age of the Brewers, I never thought they were that good anyway.
I did that in 2019, to be fair. That was like 6 years ago, but correct.
Yeah, I mean, the Central Division is mediocre. The Cardinals haven't been any good, and but now. But I do like it that you're being more critical of the team, because I think that the management isn't going to improve things until the talk radio people, stop being homers and criticize them.
Sure.
But I by the way, I mean, for as little money as they have, I think they're pretty well done. Well managed. But the other thing I want to say is that he's not going to give up on this. It's only May. They're not going to give up on that team until the kids are back in school, because they're all about drawing crowds. So they're going to say, oh boy, we got a chance. Ooh, I mean, they're not going to do that. They make their trades, well, they let go of their potentially higher salary players at in springtime or at the trade deadline. They're not going to give up on the team because it might hurt attendance, and 40,000 people for cold dollar hot dogs. That's what they live on. So they're not going to do that.
I would have loved a $1 hot. Did you get a $1 hot dog yesterday, Pete?
I got $2 hot dogs.
Boy, awesome.
Which otherwise it would have cost. They would have $7.50 a piece.
Yeah.
So that was worth it. But I mean, let's just say that those hot dogs were warmed up a couple of weeks ago, so it was like maybe lukewarm dogs, but yeah, boy, but and it was okay, but Boston, they've got some high salary players, but yesterday they had we're going on a road trip, team out there too, and only thing is so that and they don't have the small market excuse. Yeah.
No,
I mean,
no, and I think this is the first time in a while that John Henry, this is the year where the Red Sox actually spent. And Pete, I don't want to run, but I got to do a guest coming up. We'll talk more about the Red Sox in an hour too, because Colten Bartholomew is going to be here. The Red Sox should be better than this. They have about the same record as the Brewers. They have more talent than this. I actually think the Brewers have maybe outperformed their talent by a couple of wins. Two very different teams, two different talent levels, two different spots in their trajectories as a franchise, and yet they have the same record, or about the same record within a game or two, which I think is very interesting. And I don't want to cut you off, Pete, but I want to make sure that we have time to get this full interview in. Chuck Freeman's going to join us next, the Locked On Brewers podcast. Really fun chat that I had with him on the Bill Michaels show earlier today. So we'll get to that next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage. Friday night, it's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you listening, and I'll get back to your phone calls. And we'll get back to the Jaire story. It's not crazy, but it is unique, or it is... there's a word that I'm reaching for, and I'm not going to get it, so I'll just stop. It's groundbreaking. I know that sounds dramatic, but it is groundbreaking in that this is the first time it's been reported that the Packers have actually gone to Jaire with a restructure. We've always assumed, and we figured it would happen at some point, but now it's actually happened. Matt Schneidman reporting that, and we also heard that Jaire's planning to come to team activities with or without a new or restructured contract. So just some things to consider. We'll get back to talking about that at the top of the next hour at 5 o'clock. But right now, I had the absolute pleasure, and I do mean pleasure, of talking Brewers with Chuck Freimund, longtime radio legend in the state of Wisconsin, now does the Locked On Brewers podcast. He's covering all the games at the ballpark. I talked with him on Bill's show with him earlier today. Here's our conversation. What do you think about the weekend? They split at PNC, and then they won yesterday, but I am left wanting more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and at this point, they're like meandering around the 500 mark. They're a game under Grant, and yeah, it's just underwhelming. It is. I feel like I was almost feeling fortunate that they got a split in Pittsburgh because they could have dropped 3 or 4 there.
Yeah. Yep.
And yesterday started to turn ugly a little bit. It didn't. They ended up, getting out of the bases loaded jam there in the top of the 9th inning. Oh. But I thought after Churio hit that home run yesterday, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a day for the offense. The roof is open. This is going to be awesome. And who would know that they'd score 2 more runs the rest of the way, 1 on a swinging bunt in the 8th inning for insurance. But that's the way this Brewers team is.
Well, they're a game below 500. So maybe we should stop expecting more. Like maybe that's on me. Maybe I shouldn't come away from a series split against Pittsburgh and then a close win over Boston. They stink. They shouldn't stink. There's something stinks in that locker room. This is the vibe. They're more talented than they've shown. I don't know. But they played for 5 straight games over the weekend, the long weekend, teams that were begging to be beat. And they split in Pittsburgh and they barely won yesterday. But should I stop expecting so much? Like maybe they're just a middling 500 team and they're never going to be anything more than that this year. And I should stop expecting more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think maybe the expectations, the bar has been set from the 93 wins last year and the last 2 years of winning the division title. But they're kind of a punchless team. They had so many things go right last year. And even look at this year's team. Right now, they're really taxed out of the bullpen. I will argue the other way, Grant. I'm surprised if you look at everything, the taxed bullpen, the short starts, how many guys in this team have been in 0 for 24 slumps?
Yeah, the horrible offense.
I mean, unreal. Even Jackson Churio has been. Maybe we should be lucky that they're a game under. It could be a lot worse. They could be like the Pirates right now. God forbid it heads in that direction. Saw the Journal Sentinel yesterday, Grant, put out an article about, well, if the Brewers are sellers, I don't want to go down that road just yet.
I don't either. No, not yet. We might. Like, there's a time where we could. And if that happens, it happens. And I will. I think you're right, Chuck, in that I think maybe they're actually a little fortunate, especially considering injuries, to be 27 and 28. Because this offense is just punchless. Like, they stick Monasterio in the lineup yesterday, and that's a shot in the arm for the offense. Like, that's a good thing, which is insane considering when he was up here last year, so many Brewers fans wanted absolutely nothing to do with him because he just, he's kind of one of those quad A players, but they brought him up to replace kind of a mix of Capra and Oliver Dunn. And it's like, finally we got Monasterio back up here, which is just insane. How much do you think DL Hall and Aaron Ashby being healthy as long relief options in the middle of the game, how much do you think that could help this team?
Well, a lot, because they've lacked that guy. That middle reliever who, when you get into a score fest, maybe a back and forth game, or let's say your starter doesn't go long, which has been the case many times with these guys, Grant, you haven't had that guy on this team like Bryce Wilson the past 2 years who could come in, maybe settle things down a little bit or just suck up some innings. Now, DL Hall went 2 1/3 yesterday, and I thought that was the savior of the game right there, because you can't be running Abner Uribe out there, which they have been. You can't be running McGill out there every day. But Abner, I mean, another guy whose arm is going to fall off if they don't stop using him as much as they are. Mears, too, another guy. That guy's pitching like every game. Mm-hmm. And lately he's not been as effective, but we're just past Memorial Day right now, and that bullpen is exhausted. The players will say otherwise. The pitchers, like McGill in the locker room yesterday, Grant, he was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. No, you can't be pitching 33 pitches and then come back the next day and the next day and the next day. We need those two guys. Like Ashby and Hall, I think, will settle things down a little bit, give them some length out of that bullpen.
So I'm actually okay on some level with Murphy pushing his bullpen and pushing with those stud arms because they need the wins. Like, you got to give above 500. So I understand a little bit the win tonight mentality, but if that's the way we're going to operate, then I think that means Logan Henderson needs to be up here. And at some point you got to at least try Mizorowski, right? Like, if we are pushing chips into the middle of the table with the way that we manage our bullpen, don't we kind of have to do that everywhere else? Otherwise, we're just burning up our bullpen for no reason, just spinning our wheels right below 500.
Yeah, but even Logan wasn't going great lengths out of that starting rotation, and he's terrific. I mean, 3 excellent starts so far. But I don't know. I mean, who do you replace? Who do you replace out of the starting rotation? If you got Woodruff coming back, okay, you got stuff invested in him. Savali is going to be maybe trade bait at the in July if they get to that point. But you got 7 or 8 guys now who are going to be healthy. Somebody had to be sent out. I wasn't a big fan of it either. It looks like to a fan, boy, you have some success as a starter or whatever, you're not going to be here long. Yet if you struggle like some guys that do, you're going to have a little bit longer rope. I don't know. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I can certainly see why he got sent down for some length of the bullpen. Unless you put Logan in the long relief role, I'd say.
Sure. Like, I understand it's not always as simple as this guy's good. Why did he get sent down? Right there. You got to consider who has options, and you got to consider, okay, well, when's the next time he would pitch and who could help us now? I get all that stuff. I just, if Logan Henderson starts missing his turn in the rotation, I'm wondering, like, Chad Patrick's been solid, but he's been better than Chad Patrick. He's given me more length. What do you realistically think that they're going to get from Brandon Woodruff? Like, if he could give you 3 starts in a row of XYZ numbers, like, what would be a good outcome for him coming back after missing last season?
Well, I feel like he's made 1,000 rehab starts so far. I mean, come on, all right? I mean, has anybody made more rehab
They're taking it
slow. In the history of baseball. And he had the setback because of the tendonitis in the ankle. I get that. I think the expectations are top of the rotation type guy. I set him low, but the way he's throwing the ball, he's looking good in these rehab starts. If he can put it together, I mean, that adds a solid starter next to Freddie, I would say. They have intentions of him becoming that kind of a guy once again. We'll see. I'm always leery about somebody who's missed almost 2 years because of shoulder surgery, coming back like this. But I think that's the expectations, Grant.
Well, and whatever you get from him, like, I'm just excited for him to pitch again, especially if this team's going to be 500. Yeah. It's like, okay, so if I have to reframe my expectations for this team, now maybe on a human level, I'm just excited to watch Brandon Woodruff pitch. Continue on that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we're talking about pitching here. The pitching has not been the problem. Yeah, the bullpen is being taxed a little bit, but look at these games. I mean, it could be helped if they step up and put up a crooked number once in a while. You're trying to win games 3-2 again. And like yesterday, you're trying to hope and pray that 3-1 lead is holding up in the ninth inning. Score some runs. The problem isn't really the pitching, or no matter who they're going to keep Logan Henderson up here, but you're not going to score some runs for him. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Score some runs.
They haven't hung a crooked number. I believe a couple weeks ago, I was listening to a game and they scored 4 runs, and it was Grindle or whoever was doing the radio call. It's like, the dam has broken. If 4 runs is and look, that's how it feels. I'm not criticizing whoever it was. I don't remember, but like that's the state of this offense. You're at the ballpark a lot. You're covering this team face to face on a human level. What have you seen and heard around Yelich? Obviously, we watch him struggle, and maybe he found some things at PNC against a common opponent, the Pirates. But when you guys have had a chance to talk with him or interact with him in the clubhouse, what could you maybe tell us about the time that he's having this year and maybe what he's doing to still impact the club or to try to get himself back on track offensively?
The problem I've always had is outwardly, Yelich, when you interview him, he comes off as very nonchalant. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, yeah, no, that's baseball. We'll get him tomorrow. One of those type of things. And we don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And as fans, we don't want to hear it. When our guy goes 0 for 5, making $26 million, we want to see him break a bat over his knee or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not him. He is not that guy. The other day, he was asked about, he went 0 for 5. We were in front of his locker last Wednesday after going 0 for 5. And he was talking about, well, yeah, it is what it is. And, the more you talk about it, the bigger deal it becomes. One of those type of things. And it's like, yeah, it's just not what I want to hear. It's just not what we want to hear. Of course, it's a big deal. You're batting 184.
Yeah. And I've noticed the things that you have with Yelich over the years. I'm not in the clubhouse, but maybe once or twice a year, but stoic. He's not a fiery guy. He's never given the impression of Adames or others who have a lot of energy and he presents in kind of a different way. But I was reading Jesse Rogers' story last week, and there were some quotes in there about how Yelich will stand up behind Murphy, not literally, but he'll have a voice to back up Murphy in a team meeting, or, he'll speak up. So he is a leader, just not in the fiery, maybe break a bat over his knee way, right? Can you speak to that?
Well, we don't see obviously we don't see what happens in the locker room when the doors are closed. We're there after 10 minutes after the game, after things are cooled down. We don't know. We don't actually know. I mean, we interview these guys, but we don't really know these guys. So we'll go to his locker and he's talking about, well, we'll get him tomorrow. Today, this is baseball. Well, 0 for 4 today, but we can't make a big deal about it. It is what it is. But yeah, I've heard the same thing, that he's got to be one of the locker room leaders on this team. He's getting paid a lot.
And he's been there forever. He's kind of that elder statesman. And when the Brewers give out that contract, it was the same with Braun. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a leader or not, that kind of falls on your shoulders, right? When you make all that money.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Braun, because those are 2 guys who Mark Antanasio, the owner, loves. Now, Braun kind of let Antanasio down, as we know, back in 2011 when the steroid accusations came out and all that came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yelich, Mark Antanasio loves him.
Mm-hmm.
Loves him. Well, just gave him the contract. We all thought it was a hometown discount, getting $26 million a year. But I'll say ownership loves Yelich. And yeah, they don't love the fact, I'm sure, that for $26 million a year, they're getting $207 at this point. But still, I will say Mark Attanasio, who ultimately holds the keys to the kingdom on anything the Brewers want to do trade-wise, is a big Christian Yelich guy.
Interesting. Last couple of minutes here with Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers podcast. So between Durbin, Ortiz, maybe Freelick, talk about some of those guys at the bottom of the order. The issue has been the guys at the top not performing. So I'm not blaming the offensive struggles of the Brewers on Durbin and Ortiz, but let's talk about, to wrap up the left side of the infield, what have you seen from those two guys? Ortiz maybe finding something the last couple of days. Durbin is giving you a couple nice plays, but he's still hitting 200. So talk about what you've seen covering those two guys.
Durbin had the big hit last Wednesday, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th inning, to tie the game. A game ultimately the Brewers lost. They're force feeding Durbin right now. They said, kid, you're going to play third base every day. And they said that right from the very beginning. There has not been any track record of him in the minors where we can say, oh God, here we go. They gave him the third base job out of necessity. They got tired of their 2 other options, Capra and Oliver Dunn. And I don't even know if Caleb Durbin is ready to play. I don't think he's ready to play third base every day, but they have no other options. I think the ultimate option there, I think what eventually happens, maybe not this year, but down the road, if they see Durbin as an everyday player, he moves to second base, Terang moves to short, and I think Ortiz is the odd man out. I don't know. I just feel like Ortiz, he had a nice double yesterday, but I feel like he is the guy who ultimately might be the odd man out of that infield equation. We'll see.
And that might be a plan of a couple of years, considering that they're pretty loaded at Nashville and at Carolina, like a lot of talent. And you can't expect all of those guys to hit, but you figure Terang is maybe settled there for a bit and you kind of build around him.
I think Terang's the shortstop of the future. I really believe that. I think that's the plan. Again, they tried to move him to shortstop this year, decided to keep him at second, Ortiz at short. I just don't know what the plan is for Ortiz. And I still think the jury is out, Grant, whether or not Ortiz is an everyday player.
I think so. But right now, they're best options and they're available and they can stay healthy day to day.
Well, you got to live with this because this is what you settled on in the offseason.
Yeah, you're darn right about that. Not many of us were happy about that. So because I want to talk about your podcast and I want you to remind people where they can find it. But next week, Chuck, I'm going to one of your favorite places with Bill. We're going on the road up to Eau Claire. And next Thursday, I will be in your former stomping grounds of Eau Claire, where you delivered a state title with Regis once upon a time. I have that correctly?
Assistant coach, girls basketball.
Assistant
1993.
Coach. Still a title. We will be golfing at Wild Ridge for the Junior Achievement Golf Outing. So I'll be up there with Bill next week.
Oh, I love Wild Ridge. I was just thinking about this the other day. I would love to. I have not played it in a few years. I think the year after COVID, 2021 is the last time I played it. I love Wild Ridge, going up there. And I want to go up there this summer. But, Eau Claire. So you staying up there for a couple of days, you guys are?
We're staying in La Crosse for 2 nights. And then Eau Claire for 1 night. And then we do the next day and then we're leaving. So I think only 1 night in Eau Claire. I don't know where. I think in the RV somewhere, maybe a Target parking lot over. I don't know.
There's always the golf course parking lot.
Yeah, I suppose I can take some. All right. That's enough of that. Grab-assing about Eau Claire. You can listen to the Locked On Brewers podcast wherever you get your podcast. And I would also recommend subscribing to YouTube so you can see that guy's handsome face. Excellent head of hair. And you can enjoy his podcast and his love for REO Speedwagon. A couple of my favorite things about Chuck. So you don't need to hear the final 2 minutes of us grab-assing about golf. All right, we'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 1 of the Wisco Sports Show. And at 5 o'clock, right back to the Jaire News. We'll talk about that. I'll continue to take your calls on that.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
The Wisco Sports Show, a couple minutes here before we get to Zach's update. We'll talk more about the latest on Jaire, reporting for Match 9 Minute The Athletic. Mondays on the Wisco Sports Show, presented by Road America. We were off yesterday, but it's going to be an exciting couple of weeks for Road America. They got Superbikes and Vintage Moto Fest coming up this weekend. And if you go to roadamerica.com and you just look at their events page, they got something going on all the time. And IndyCar is coming up next month as well. So if you got all hot and bothered watching the Indy 500 this last weekend, definitely want to take advantage of that, as it's a short enough drive from just about anywhere in Wisconsin. Just kind of in between Elkhart Lake and Plymouth. Their IndyCar event, and I want to make sure it's the 19th through the 22nd of June. So what is that? I'm not going to do the math at the top of my head, but 3 weekends from this weekend. So you're going to want to make plans. And if you want to make arrangements for camping, I hear so many good things about the camping situation. If you want to bring an RV or you want to tent it or something like that, I just hear nothing but awesome reviews of the camping over there. And it's not just race cars and motorbikes. If that's not your thing, they have sunset cruises and driving schools and all sorts of different things going on throughout the summer. Truly something just about every weekend. And look at Tyler and Mass on the live stream says, I'll be up for IndyCar for a Friday practice date. I would like to go up there at least one day. I think Bill might be going that week. I might try to tag along because that does sound like a blast and a half. I would love to get up there. Next week, I got to go to La Crosse. I don't have to go. I am beyond excited to go to La Crosse and then Eau Claire with Bill, but Road America in a couple of weeks for IndyCar. Sounds pretty fun. Speaking of IndyCar, Steve Zotke, our friend from Traction Reaction Media, going to join Bill tomorrow to recap the Indy 500. So those of you who enjoyed the weekend past just the charade of the Weenie 500, you'll get it from Steve tomorrow. I wasn't going to try to do that today, filling in. Rick says IndyCars at Road America is more exciting than at Indy. I have also heard that. So definitely worth a trip. Appreciate their sponsorship and support of the show. Can't recommend it enough. Go to roadamerica.com and you can get tickets there. You can look at their events calendar. Everything's right there for you. Super, super convenient. Hour number 2, and I want to talk about Jaire Alexander next. But first, a 2-minute update from Zach Heilprin. No commercials. Be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Brewers and Red Sox going to continue their series tonight at American Family Field. Milwaukee took the opener yesterday, winning for a second straight day and getting back to within a game of 500 on the year. Aaron Savale going to make his second start since coming off the injured list. Gave up 2 runs over 4 innings versus Pittsburgh. First pitch is set for 6:40. Turning to the Packers, they have reportedly offered a restructured contract to cornerback Jaire Alexander. That was the word from The Athletic this morning. The two sides have been trying to work out a resolution much of the offseason, as Alexander's time in Green Bay appeared to be done, but he reportedly wants to stay with the team and plans to attend the mandatory minicamp next month, whether they have come to a resolution or not. Back in April, GM Brian Gutekunst told reporters that they were working hard to find a resolution.
Obviously, we invested a lot in Jaire, and we want to make sure that if he's not going to be on our football team helping us win games, that we get something back for that investment. So we'll see where it goes. But again, working with him weekly and trying to figure out what's best for both Jaire and the Packers.
Alexander has played in just 16 of a possible 37 games last 2 years due to injury. Packers start their OTAs this week.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
They believe in protecting the families and children in our farming communities. Kids love to be included in the daily farm activities, but accidents can happen quickly. Reduce the chance of injury by making sure your farm is a safe environment for adults and kids. Learn more at ruralmutual.com.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the deadline for players to pull their names out of the NBA draft is coming up tomorrow night. So far, Wisconsin guard John Blackwell has not done that, though he is expected to return to college. The draft coming up in late June. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Swing and a drive. Deep left center. And a hit. Welcome to Memorial Day.
This stadium gets rocking when there's a bunch of people in it, and definitely felt that today. So I thoroughly enjoyed pitching here in Milwaukee, and thank you for the fans for coming out today.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
A little bit of sound from yesterday, and we'll talk more about the Brewers coming up at 5:30. We'll actually get the Red Sox side of this matchup, too. Colten Bartholomew, who covers the Badgers actually for the State Journal, is a huge Red Sox fan, follows the team because he's a proper gentleman. He gets angry about baseball. Real men get angry about baseball. They lose their cool over baseball. We talk a little Badgers as well. I actually chatted with him on the Bill Michaels show earlier today, my last day of filling in for Bill. It was a great conversation, so I'm going to play that for you coming up at the bottom of this hour. But right now, I want to continue to talk about the news of the day, which is Jaire Alexander and the Packers maybe taking another step towards sticking together in 2025. And I'll take your thoughts on it if you have anything to add. 608-321-1670. You know the number. You can comment on the live stream as well, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So let's just get right into it. Matt Schneidman writes, according to a source with knowledge of the situation, the Packers have restructured a contract or proposed a restructured contract to Alexander, which tangibly demonstrates their interest in retaining the 2-time All-Pro quarterback during an offseason in which they have been open to trading him. Alexander and his agent, John Thornton of Rock Nation, have not agreed to a restructuring yet. Alexander, 28, wants to remain in Green Bay and has 2 years remaining on his then record contract extension he signed in 2022. According to OTC, over the cap, Alexander has the 3rd highest cap number on the team, behind Love and Rashawn Gary. Alexander has a base salary of $16.5 million, a per-game roster bonus of $650, and a workout bonus of $700. So let's just talk about that part. There's one more little tidbit in this story that's worth talking about, but let's start there. Matt is correct when he writes, this tangibly demonstrates the Packers' interest in keeping him, because up until now, the Packers have basically sat on their hands. Yeah, we'd be open to trading him. We'd explore that. Yeah, we'd be open to having him back. We'd explore that. All possibilities. Everything's on the table. I believe that's what was reported by Rob Domofsky a couple weeks ago. Everything's on the table, right? I think the Packers from the beginning have just been open to anything. Keeping him, restructuring, trade, cut, everything. Every possible outcome, I think, was on the table for the Packers. And I think we misconstrued that a little bit going all the way back to the combine when Ian Rappaport reported, and I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was basically like the Packers are open to trading him. I think we took that as the Packers are bound and determined to trade him. Everyone rushed to the podcast studio, record the emergency podcast. Jaire is on the trade block. Now let's write the stories. Here are the 3 best destinations for Jaire Alexander. Here's 3 packages that make sense for Jaire Alexander. Here's what the Packers could do. Like we just moved on the thing because we're so used to moving on trade announcements or trade requests because that's what we've been programmed to do as sports fans or content creators. It's like, oh, we need the column on the trade request. We need the podcast that talks, emergency podcast. Jaire Alexander is on the trade block. When maybe all along the situation was more like Brian Gutekunst's like, yeah, we might, like if someone gives us an offer, like we'd be open to it. But I think throughout it, they've been open to everything else too. I think the Packers really would have liked to trade him. I think they were probably hoping at one point to have traded him. And I think the Packers realized over a span of weeks or a couple months that there just really wasn't a market. And this isn't reported or that this is just my reading of the thing. I think Jaire's camp has been surveying the league. Like, what could be out there for us? Like, if we were to get cut, if we were to turn down any and all restructures and just get cut, what's out there? You know? And I don't think there's a ton out there. That's not to say no teams would be interested. I think plenty of teams would have interest in a 28-year-old corner who's still shown that he can play at a really high level when healthy. I think there'd be plenty of interest. I just don't know if that interest would be paired with a large contract. You know what I mean? Like, I bet the Rams or the Niners or whoever, pick whatever team. I bet they'd call him. Yeah, man. We always loved you in Green Bay. Tough luck on the injuries the last couple of years. We'd love to bring you in. And I bet it would be a couple million with incentives. At least that would be my guess. I don't think there's a team out there prepared to pay him 15 or 16 million a year. Because if there was, they probably would have traded for him. There's no guaranteed money left on the deal. You know what I mean? Like, I think if there were teams really willing to go after it and to spend and to really invest in a player like Jaire Alexander, then there maybe would have been more trade interest. So I think both sides did their due diligence. I think the Packers surveyed the league really hoping to find a trade partner. They could not. I think Jaire's camp probably has been doing their due diligence around the league. Like, if we were to spring loose and all of a sudden be on the open market, maybe what would that market look like? And I think Jaire's camp, like the Packers, were underwhelmed with what they found out in the NFL landscape. So now I think it's in the best interest of both parties to make this work somehow. Again, I think the Packers probably would have liked to have traded him. And I bet Jaire's camp wished that there was plenty of money, mountains of money, all throughout both the AFC and NFC for him if he were to hit the market. Neither side found what they wanted. And now it might just be in both sides' best interest to compromise. I just don't know what that compromise is. Jaire's set to make just short of $20 million. When you factor in bonuses and such, it's like 16, 17, 18 million, something like that. I'm not super obsessed with the precise number and when that number is paid and how it's paid. Let's just say 17 million. Let's make this really easy. If the Packers approach Jaire and say, hey, we'll pay you $9 million with a chance to make another $5 million or $6 million in incentives. So basically, you're going to get a fine base salary. It's not what you were going to get before. But if you play and play well, you'll have a chance to make it all. I feel like Jaire's camp might be interested in that, given that it's better than the alternative, which is getting cut and then going somewhere else, maybe for way less. I don't know that the market is that cool and that tepid on Jaire. That would just be my guess. That would be my guess. What we will see next, or what we will learn next, or what the next step is what type of restructure did the Packers pose to Jaire? Because if they're really interested in keeping him, that offer will be different than, well, we'd actually kind of prefer to cut him. Like if the Packers roll up to Jaire and they're like, we want to pay you $3 million next year. I don't think that's tenable. It's kind of disrespectful, but also I bet Jaire could get that elsewhere. So if the Packers really don't have an interest in keeping him, they'll just lowball his ass off. Jaire will turn it down, and they'll cut him post June 1. And the Packers have done that with guys like Jordy or Bulaga, where it was clear, like, we really don't want you at all. It's not that we want you to take a 40 or 50% pay. Like, we don't want you unless you're basically free. We've seen that from the Packers in the past. Rodgers hated it, right? He talked about that. And if that's how they feel about Jaire, and they're like, yeah, we'll keep you if you play for nothing, I don't think Jaire is going to go for that. Because I think he could probably get nothing plus a little extra somewhere else. But if the Packers are willing to pay him half of his deal and then some with possible incentives, that might appeal. That might be a compromise that works for both sides. Matt Schneidman also reported, and this is significant, Alexander participated in the voluntary first week of the offseason program, but that was virtual because of the draft being held in Green Bay. He has not yet reported to Lambeau Field for in-person voluntary work, as his future with the team remains uncertain, but he plans to attend mandatory minicamp on June 10th, if not before, even if his contract situation isn't resolved according to a source. The Packers could still release Alexander before he shows if negotiations for restructuring reach a dead end. I don't think the Packers want that. The Packers do not want him participating in anything on this current deal, because if he gets hurt or something happens, they're probably on the hook for money. Again, I don't care about the decimal points and the details. I think Jaire showing up to minicamp or 2 offseason activities is Jaire's way of saying, all right, piss or get off the pot. Offer me a contract that I could actually take or cut me. That's that coming to a head. I'll show up even without a deal. And Jaire knows that the Packers probably have very little interest in that, and it will force their hand to a degree when the Packers up until this point have shown no problem just sitting on the pot without pissing. They're just sitting. That is an effort to get piss. That's what that is. You've been sitting on the pot. Either get off or relieve yourself. I will come practice and force you to deal with this. I will show up to offseason activities, which is smart negotiating. I still wonder if there's a compromise that works for both. I think there might be. 608-321-1670. Let's go to the calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hello, Grant.
Hello.
It's, Bruce from Eau Claire.
Hey, what's going on, Bruce?
Well, I've been listening to you, and you made some good points. First of all, we have to have Jaire back. I mean, we're just a better team, and we measure our success by championships, find the guy. The people in the clubhouse like him. But 2 additional points I want to make that really kind of reiterate what you've been saying. The money. It's not just this year, but it's next year. No one's going to give him a 2-year contract. And if he, performs this year and wins some incentives, one of those incentives could be, so many games, so many interceptions, whatever, and next year is guaranteed. So he's not just playing for this year. He's playing for next year, and that market next year wouldn't be there.
Well, and likewise, Bruce, I think the Packers have next year in mind, too. They're like, okay, we're willing to try it this year, but if we keep you this year, then this problem becomes a next year problem, too, if it doesn't go well. So I think both sides are probably looking at 2026. You're right.
Well, and the other point I was going to make is Goody is great at playing the time. I used to do a lot of contract negotiations, and I always have to tell my client, time is on our side. Time is a bargaining technique.
Sure.
And by waiting until after the draft, every club out there has some 5th, 6th, 7th round cornerback that they think is going to be good now. So Jaire's value just kept dropping and dropping and dropping, and Goody didn't say a thing during the offseason. And it just kept coming down. So now we're ready to deal a good deal out of it. So, he proved that he could do that with Rodgers. Now he's proven that he can do it with Jaire. There's sometimes you jump on a deal. There's others you just milk the time and make it come to you.
Yeah.
So a couple other thoughts. That's all.
Those are great thoughts, Bruce. I'm with you on Goody waiting and doing very little. And there's some real symmetry there with how the Rodgers thing went down. I'm not sure that it benefits the Packers or gives them strength the way that you're saying. Maybe it does. I'd have to think about it more. They're just in no place to need to hurry on this. I don't know if their position is any stronger now than it was. I think the Packers have realized there's not a trade market. And Jaire's camp has realized what the market is for Jaire if he were to hit the open market, I believe. And if my hunch is correct, the money is not crazy high for Jaire, and he'd rather play on this current deal, even in a restructured form, than hit the open market and need to try to find a new deal, right? But I also think, Bruce, both parties are totally looking towards next year. The Packers especially, because the Packers could bite the bullet this year, But then they wouldn't have to worry about it next year. And if they bring him back just on a trial basis, it's not just a one-year trial basis. Then it becomes a next year problem too, when they might just be interested in washing their hands of it completely. So this money and this issue comes off the books farther down the line. 608-321-1670. Let's take another call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Howie in Hayward.
Hey, what's going on, Howie? I was just not in Hayward. I'm going to be in Birchwood for a bachelor party this summer. I'm jacked to get back up there. It's been too long.
Well, it's beautiful country up our way here, so enjoy your time.
Thank you. What's going on,
up
Howie?
in Sawyer County area?
Yeah.
Well, this whole Jaire deal kind of is telling me that the NFL will pretty much put up with anything, antics. The fact that a 28-year-old cornerback who's shown high ability isn't have much of a market is simply due to the fact that he was cleared by the Packers and he still won't play. The NFL will put up with anything, behavior-wise, and if you can play. He was cleared to play by the conservative Packers medical staff and chose not to. No team's going to give up resources, assets for a guy who's going to do that. What do you think?
Interesting. Well, I just think, and Howie, that's a good call. I just think that players are worth less in the NFL than we normally think. And I've talked about this before. In the NBA, if you are a player that's worth even half a grain of salt, you're going for multiple firsts and players. Like Mikal Bridges fetched multiple firsts. Rudy Gobert got 5 firsts or something. Like any player that's even a borderline superstar is getting the haul. And in the NFL, it's just so rarely the case. Players will go for multiple premium picks when they're in their prime. Like I think of Khalil Mack when he was traded, or Jalen Ramsey when he was traded. But all too often, it's like, the star player is available. Okay, but the star player's, closer to 30 than they are to 28, 27. They got an injury history. There was this one weird thing once upon a time. 5th round pick and conditional 3rd in the future. It's like, wait, that's it? Star players in the NFL rarely are traded for what we think they should be traded for, because general managers are like, look, I got 6 or 7 picks every year or more in the draft to go find my guys on a rookie deal. There's talent everywhere at every level. Why am I giving up a premium pick to go get your guy who's expensive and old and injury prone? So I don't know exactly what Jaire's value is. I wonder what the Packers got in return when they asked. But I can't imagine it was great. If it was anything great, the Packers would have made the deal, because I think they had real motivation to dump this guy. That didn't come to fruition. So now we're here, both sides looking for a compromise. And I think there is a compromise that works best for both sides. I just don't know what that number is. What percent of his current deal Jaire's going to go for? What percent of this current deal is small enough for the Packers to go for? And if it doesn't match up, the Packers might just cut him after June 1 anyways and save money and be done with it. I don't think Jaire wants that, because I think chances are his best shot at making the most money is still in Green Bay. We'll take a 3-minute break, come back, more on this, and then Colten Bartholomew going to join us at 5:35 to talk Brewers Red Sox.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your 2 wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally, where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run, with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you being here. I want credit for not bringing up the NBA. Conference finals are interesting. Knicks Pacers is going to reach a turning point tonight. Pacers are either going to go up 3-1, which effectively ends the series, or it's tied 2-2, and you can make the case, well, the Knicks should have won game 1. Knicks might just win the series. It's a lot riding on tonight's game. I want credit for not bringing it up, because so many of you get your knickers in a twist. You get a bee in your bonnet because, Grant brought up the basketball playoffs going on right now, and Giannis might leave, but no, God forbid Grant should talk about it. So I have not brought up the NBA. We're going to talk with Colten Bartholomew here in about 10 minutes. He covers the Badgers for the State Journal and Badger Extra, and we've had Colten on before, and all the way back to the first year or so of this very program when he was covering preps and UWL Lacrosse Tribune. He probably one of the first guests I ever had on. But he's also a massive Red Sox fan, and we dug into some of the, let's say, dynamics between those two teams. I think it's fascinating because the Red Sox are 27-29. The Brewers are 27-28. Basically identical records. Red Sox this offseason added a stud third baseman, MVP candidate, Aroldis Chapman, who's been nails as a closer so far, Garrett Crochet, who's been one of the better starters in baseball, total stud, and they've gotten worse since last year, and they weren't that good last year. The Brewers lost Willy Adames. They lost Christian Yelich, whatever version they had of him last year. William Contreras has a broken finger, and they're starting Caleb Durbin and Joey Ortiz on the left side of their infield. And they're one game under 500. They're the same record as the Red Sox. Two very different teams, experiencing very different things, with almost the same record. That's funny to me. That's interesting to me. That compels me. So we're going to talk about that with Colten Bartholomew. We'll get an eye on the enemy of sorts. And I also asked him a little bit about the Badgers. They have a lot of official visits coming in over the next few weekends. Huge couple of weekends for the program, especially as it pertains to their class of 2026. We've been talking about the Jaire news today from Matt Schneidman. This was an official step or I don't want to say a formality because it's not a formality, but this is what we've been expecting or talking about, even though that hadn't happened or hadn't been reported. The Packers would approach Jaire about a restructure, or so we thought. Up until this point, they hadn't done it. And now we have reporting that the Packers have kind of made contact and started that process. I wonder what that restructure looks like. He's set to make 16, 17 million in base salary, plus, a couple $100,000 here and there for incentives, roster bonuses, workout bonuses, that kind of thing. So let's say he makes 17 million. Do the Packers come to Jaire and say, we want to pay you 8 plus incentives? We want to pay you 5 plus incentives? Or do they go to Jaire and give him the old Brian Bulaga 1-2 step? The old Jordy Nelson. Yeah, we'll give you the vet min plus incentives. If they do that, I mean, you might as well just cut him. You don't need to piss him off on the way out the door. Just say no thanks and cut him. But I don't know. The Packers have had a tendency to do that. I think it would be better if the Packers could get him on a reduced number. And I think to a certain number, that would be better for Jaire too. The Packers wanted to trade him. They could not. Jaire's camp's probably been sniffing around the league, wondering what they could get on the open market. I don't think they found anything great either. Neither side, both sides played the field a little bit, and I don't think either side really did all that well. So now they come back together, and to me, this is like a bad roommate situation. We moved in together, and at the time it was great, and we had some good times, but we realized we're different people. I'm a night owl. You're a morning person. I'm a neat freak. You're a disaster. I love going out and drinking. You like getting up at the crack of dawn to do yoga and drink your new fancy mushroom coffee because normal coffee isn't good and healthy anymore. Now it's going to have mushrooms in it, right? I like going outside and doing activities. You like playing video games all day. It's just not working. You love loud music. I love you get my point. I don't need to continue this torture analogy. But lease runs through June 1. Neither one of us wants to break that. I don't want to break. Do you want to break a lease? I don't want to break a lease. Now, I could move out, which sounds like a royal pain in the ass. But then I have to find a subleaser, which is a royal pain in the ass. And then you have to live with the subleaser, which you don't want to do. So here on, whatever, what was the metaphor? What is it? We moved in together. It was fun. So let's say it's January or February. We only got to get to June 1st, which isn't great. It's not perfect for anyone involved, but it's better than the alternative. Right? I think that's kind of the dynamic that's playing out here. Now, sometimes roommate situations go so bad, or something comes up in life. It doesn't even have to be bad roommates. It's like you got a new job, and now you're trying to you need to move somewhere, but you're trying to figure out what to do with the apartment, right? At a certain point, it actually becomes worth it to break the lease or to find a subleaser. At a certain point, I don't know what that point is for Jaire. If his camp asked around the NFL, it's like we think you could get $5 million with the team somewhere, plus some incentives. Well, if the Packers come to Jaire and say vet minimum plus in-game bonuses, I can get that anywhere. Screw you. And maybe that's what the Packers want. Maybe that's the subleasing situation. You know what I mean? This sucks, but we can't stay in the same house anymore. Just go our separate ways and we'll deal with the fallout for a little bit, financially, on our salary cap, on our roster, that sort of thing. But if the Packers come to Jaire and say, you're set to make 17, let's drop you down to 9. And then we'll give you a chance to make $6 million back in incentives, games played, interceptions, that sort of thing. That might work for Jaire. That might work. That might be good enough. You know what I mean? 608-321-1670. Any final thoughts? Text him in. Comment on the live stream. See, Nick is you're one of those people, Nick. He says, Ben, sweet silence, the sound of NBA silence. Thank you. Yeah. I did you all a favor tonight. I had Justin on Bill's show earlier today, and I was going to replay it, but I'm like, no, because then I'll have listeners up my butt for talking about basketball. Maybe we'll try to do some hockey talk at some point this week. Probably wait for the Stanley Cup Finals, but we could do a little golf talk too. Women's U.S. Open up at Erin Hills. Chuck's going there to cover it later this week. So is Jim Ozarski. He's going to be on with Bill Thursday or Friday. Talk about the Bucks and talk about that. But no, Brewers, Packers. Good enough for tonight. Good enough for me. When we come back, we'll connect with Colten Bartholomew, the State Journal, to talk a little bit about the Badgers because that's obviously his bag. But I mostly want to talk Brewers Red Sox because he's a big Red Sox fan. Thursdays, or what day is it today? Tuesday on the Wisco Sports Show, brought to you by In on the River. If you're planning a weekend away in Wisconsin, try Wisconsin's West Coast right on the river. If you need recommendations on things to do or you need to be sold on it, just text the text line, DM me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. I'll talk your ear off about it. It's my favorite thing. But In on the River, right in downtown Trempealeau, your room looks out over the river. You can see the bluffs. The marina is right there to the left. You can bring a boat. You put it in right there. You don't have to drive miles to the boat landing. It's right up the hill from Perot State Park. It's right around the corner from Trempealeau Mountain Golf, or you can go up to El Morro Vineyard. Little girls' weekend, huh? Or guys weekend. If you're into wine, cool. Or both guys and girls weekend. Yeah, get the whole crew together. Husbands and wives, sure. Trempealeau Hotel's right across the street. Live music and food and so many shops and cool things to do right in downtown Trempealeau. So go online, inontheriverwi.com, or give them a call, 608-534-7784, and you can get something booked up for the summer. Pretty reasonably priced, too. Like when I was there this spring, they're like, look, we're not looking to gouge people. It's impossible to get a reasonably priced hotel room in 2025, and it sucks. But they're not gonna put you over a barrel. So inontheriverwi.com. Let's take a call here before we take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Denny from Holden.
Denny, hey, Denny, what's going on? That's kind
How
of
are you?
That's close to you. Trempealeau, by the way. You're not all the way up, but it's getting into your neck of the woods.
No, you bet. No, they have some fantastic places up here.
Oh,
you got that right. You're a very good promoter for our lacrosse area.
Yeah, we're all right. Well, I'll be there next week with Bill for what are we going for that? Well, we're going to the Loggers. Bill's got a cigar dinner. That's right. I'm like, what's his event that we're going to be in town for? So I'm looking forward to that. But what's up, Denny? Enough about me.
Okay, here's what I heard, buddy. Okay, did you hear Bakhtiari is trying his agents inquiring about possibly playing a year and retiring with the Packers?
Retiring like his like signing a one-day, like a ceremonial retirement?
Yeah, no, he wants to play a year.
Interesting.
I know. And then did you hear anything about Brett wanting to be a coach at all for the Packers? You know, like whatever, help quarterbacks and stuff.
Favre?
Yeah.
Or Hundley? I think you're seeing it where you see the stuff. You see it on Facebook, Denny. I think you're getting your leg pulled.
No. Hey, I think that Bakhtiari, it's true. I really do.
Well, then why Bakhtiari? There's been no interest. There've been no workouts. There's been no nothing for him over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like
I'm just bringing it up.
I'm sorry to shoot. I'm sorry to shoot the messenger, Denny. I shouldn't have met you with hostility like this. This isn't fair to you.
No, that's okay. Hey, at least you did talk basketball, so that's good.
Does everyone hate? Like, look, the NBA playoffs are going on right now. Like, would you rather just what do you want to talk about? Hey, 608-321-1670. Which Packer is under the most pressure coming up this season? Is that what we want to do in May? Is that preferable? I'll do that. That's fine. I can come up with a Packers topic every day. I'd rather talk about what's going on currently. You know what I mean?
No, right. And as far as I'm concerned, I wish the Pacers would win because they beat the Bucks, you know?
Oh, you're one of those. You want our loss validated by you want to lose to the best team.
I do. I really do.
That's mature. I'm not mature. I'm petty. I'm the other way.
You're petty.
I'll screw them.
Well,
I want to see them lose. But they are good basketball.
Big time.
And I said this last week, Denny and I got to run. I think they play an awesome, exciting brand of basketball. I just wish it was a team that didn't beat the Bucks. You know what I mean? Sorry, basketball minute. I hope you didn't have to suffer through that. We'll talk with Colten Bartholomew about not only the Badgers, we'll do that for a couple minutes, but his Red Sox, who have game number 2 against the Brewers tonight. We'll do that next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Now we're going to get to Colten here in just a sec. Anything else to say about the Jaire situation, about the Brewers? Hit me up, 608-321-1670. Text the text line. Comment on the live stream as well. Up and running. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. At Wisco Grant. Colten Bartholomew, the State Journal. But a big-time Red Sox fan as well. And if I remember correctly, began the interview by asking him to explain that. So here's our conversation from Bill's show earlier today.
Colten Bartholomew is here to join us. Now, he covers the Badgers for the State Journal and Badger Extra, does excellent work. And we might talk a little Badgers when we're done. But Colten, you are a Red Sox fan. I believe you're also a Denver Broncos fan. Can you remind me, because I didn't think you were from out in Boston. How did you end up with those allegiances again?
Sure. So grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and we'll start with the football one. My parents are Bears fans, and they said, don't do this to yourself. Pick somebody else. And I was in like second grade, and John Elway wins Super Bowl. And it was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to root for them. Then they win again. It's like, this is the greatest. My team never loses.
Yep.
And so I just stuck with them. And I was like, all right, that was a decade of not being good. And then Peyton Manning came along, and things got a little bit better in college. But, yeah, so that's how the Broncos happened. And I have extended family in Boston. That's how the Red Sox happened. And then obviously being overweight and left-handed, David Ortiz was kind of the foundational person in my life as a kid. So those are the two things that really got me with the Red Sox.
So you were going to the games. You're down in Milwaukee. You're going today and tomorrow. So what I've been saying, I think this series has a lot of interesting ramifications for both teams. I look at the Brewers and I'm like, damn, you've done really well to just be one game under 500. Where I think Red Sox fans like yourself and people who follow the team, you're like, okay, so you added an ace pitcher, an MVP caliber player at third base, a closer who's been excellent. You've gotten better at catcher, and yet you're worse than you were last year. The Red Sox are basically in the same place as the Brewers, but expectations were much higher. Like, why isn't this team better? And that's kind of been the talking point around the team, right?
Oh yeah, it's been miserable. And the whole idea of this offseason, like with the moves you just mentioned, was to get out of that 500 purgatory that they've been in for about 3.5 years. And they're just staying right in it. It's just this vortex that they can't get out of. And right now in the last four-ish weeks, it's all been about the starting pitching. You mentioned they lose the Crochet game yesterday, and he's been the only pitcher they've got that can get past the 5th inning. And I mean that like every single start's been 4 1/3, even shorter by some of them. Walker Buehler last week gets ejected in the 3rd inning, yelling at an umpire about balls and strikes. And it's like, yeah, you might have been right, and it was the umpire escalating, but you can't get thrown out when you know this team's so gassed in the bullpen. And they're making all these moves to try to keep the bullpen fresh with a bunch of arms that are in AAA for a reason. And it's just they can't get out of their own way to get to a place where the fact that they added talent can matter. And it is just wildly frustrating to watch the same crap defense, same mistakes in the field, and same stuff that happens at the plate with the horrible situational hitting and striking out pretty much anytime you have a real shot at a good inning. It's just the same thing over and over, despite new names on the back of jerseys.
So the Rafi Devers story has been fascinating because he was your third baseman. And then this offseason, they bring in Bregman. And I don't know what their plan was originally because there was a little bit of a delay. And then eventually they wanted Rafi Devers to DH, and he hated the idea, slammed the organization publicly. Now he's DHing. Bregman's hurt. They need a third baseman. They also need a first baseman because Tristan Casas is hurt. And now Bregman is dug in and he wants to keep DHing. It has been a very entertaining saga to follow. And Rafi Devers has been calling out the organization and defying them publicly in a way that I have not often seen athletes in my lifetime, Colten.
No, for sure. And the thing is, he has been a guy that has been kind of never say anything. There's a language barrier, but it's fine, and just chooses not to in interviews, which is fine too. I'm not hating on that decision. I probably wouldn't either if I didn't feel 100% comfortable. But organization, as often as he has, like you mentioned, 2 times already with these asks of potential switching positions, I don't blame him on either one, in all honesty. And the thing is, he's been the best DH in the sport, and he's been the best hitter in the AL besides Aaron Judge. So like, I can't even say like, oh, you're not living up to the fact that we just asked you to hit. So I don't even like, yeah, it's not great. It would have been much better for this team if the second Bregman goes down, they just throw Rafi Devers back at third and then open up that DH slot for maybe Masataka Yoshida to come back from AAA, or, maybe call up the best prospect in baseball who's sitting in AAA for no other reason than service time manipulation. Like, to put it in the Brewers context, this is basically like we're sitting Jackson Churio in AAA for no reason. We're sitting there at 500, not playing good baseball. It's just infuriating to see the fact that baseball's got this system where you keep a guy down for a couple of months for no good reason other than just keep that extra year in arbitration, when if he's good like you think he's going to be, you're going to pay him anyway. So what, you just saved money for a couple of months, really? I hate it, Grant. I really do.
Well, and this is the first year in a while. It seems like Red Sox fans are kind of pleased with John Henry and his contribution, and they've spent, like, you'd think, spending
shockingly, the guy spent some money finally. Like, he got back from Europe. Liverpool wins the Premier League or whatever the hell they play for over there.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I own the Red Sox still. Let's spend some money. That was fun. And then still not working.
Yeah, it is weird. And Cora's kind of in an odd spot. It seems like Red Sox fans are angry at Alex Cora right now.
Yeah, I don't get that at all, honestly. Like, yes, he does some things in the bullpen that don't make a ton of sense sometimes, but at the same time, he's got 3 guys a night that can't pitch, or sometimes it's up to 4 or 5. So it's like there's only a few moves to make per game, and you're just rolling the dice, and if it doesn't work, you don't have a whole lot of other options. I think the idea that the team addressed the offseason, I think, was incorrect. And then Cutter Crawford, who was a guy that was either going to be that 5th starter or a really reliable long relief guy, he gets hurt and doesn't seem like he's anywhere close to coming back, which is a shockingly big blow for all the moves they did make. But it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, I think fans get tired of saying, oh, this guy's not hitting, this guy's not pitching well enough, and they want to blame the guy making the decisions. It's like, Alex Cora's not up there striking out every day like Trevor Story or Ceddanne Rafaela. Like, there's a line where there has to be some accountability from the player. And I think the one big frustration is at what point does the team just say, you can't play Trevor Story or Ceddanne Rafaela anymore? And that goes into, they paid both of those guys. Trevor Story's still on a big contract. Rafaela got extended a couple of years ago. So I think both of them they see it as, well, we got to stick by him because he's on the contract. But with Trevor Story, that guy just doesn't make there's a line where it's like, okay, if you're not going to hit, at least get productive outs. He came up yesterday in first and third, one out, and just popped it out to second, does nothing, doesn't help anybody. And that's been happening all season with Trevor Story. So it's one of those deals where it's like, okay, if you're going to be a veteran, be not good anymore in the field and then still not even get productive outs. It's like, I don't care that you made $25 million. Like, get off the team. I get that point, but that's not an Alex Cora decision to kick him off the team. So I don't get the Cora hate.
So I'm just looking at ESPN.com. The Red Sox do not have a starter. They don't have a probable listed. Do you know, what are we seeing tonight? So it'll be Aaron Savali for the Brewers, and then who's pitching for the Red Sox?
I would guess more than likely it's going to be Cooper Criswell, because he was up for the doubleheader over the weekend and stayed on the 25-man, or excuse me, 26. But if it's not, like, it's going to be just a ridiculous bullpen game where, like, Brennan Bernardino might go the first two, and then maybe Sean Newcomb, both of them who are just quadruple A left-handers that aren't all that good, but can get you some outs and not be a disaster. And they're going to hope that maybe the offense take an entire weekend off since Friday. They finally wake up here in Milwaukee, but that's a gamble that I'm not sure this team's really willing to make yet.
It'll probably be bullpen-ish game from the Brewers. Savali, like, if you can get 5 solid, I would take it. And then, that's been an issue with the Brewers too, is Murph's been, working these high leverage relievers to the bone. I would think Uribe and McGill are probably both out today. I don't know about Koenig. Mears probably should be out. That hasn't stopped Pat Murphy in the past. I will say the vibes with the Brewers have seemingly been okay. It's tough to be a 500 or below team and have good vibes, but I don't think the locker room and I don't think the clubhouse is soured. I tell you what, Colton, I watched the Red Sox yesterday. I'm like, there's something weird. Like, the vibes are off in a way that they're not with the Brewers, even though their records seem very similar. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I think part of it is the Devers thing, because I think if you're in that clubhouse, it would probably be annoying if somebody sees the two of your cornerstone pieces like Casas and Bregman go down and says, nope, I'm not going to change what I'm doing at all. Like, as a fan, I don't really care, but I could understand if you're on the team and kind of laying it all out there and somebody's not willing to budge when things have gone wrong for the team. That would be something that irks people. And then I think the fact that so many pitchers have been kind of overexposed, in my opinion, I think that's a decent word for it, is, they've done a pretty solid job, I think, this bullpen for the mid talents they've got in that middle relief spot. Until you mentioned Chapman earlier as being kind of a revelation at closer that they got in for Kenley Jansen after last season. So I think there's a lot of people like, okay, I'm doing my job, this person's not. And then every day, like that's one thing I think Boston still gets the credit it deserves for. It's like, it is one of the hardest places, I think, to be successful as an athlete, because it doesn't matter if you go 8 days in a row doing well. That day that you fail is going to be highlighted and just blown up to a proportion that's really not fair. And I think now that the Celtics are out, right, the Patriots, it's mini camp. Like, there's only a certain amount of interest in that. Like, the Red Sox are the only show right now in Boston sports. And when you put that microscope on and you're not playing well, it's just going to feed on itself. So it's certainly just kind of, like I said, that vortex of being 500 or right at about 500 is a lot tougher to get out of when your 3, 4, and 5 hitters that were supposed to start the year either are a no-show like Trevor Story or now hurt.
Well, and I think that the result that can happen in a clubhouse when you feel as though others aren't doing their job and they're not pulling their weight, what you do, or what I would do as an athlete, is I internalize everything. All I'm going to do is take care of my job. I'm going to go out there and do that, and nothing else matters, which maybe if you're trying to perform and produce isn't a bad strategy, but then I think individuals lose ownership over the whole thing, right? So, hey, I went out there, I did my job, winning and losing, that's out of my control, and you get this kind of indifferent kind of malaise over a team, and maybe that's what's happening with the Red Sox. That's seemingly what it is, at least.
For sure. That's happened the last couple of years without a question. And then, a big question of the last couple of years has been, who are the leaders? Like, is there a leader on this team? And one of the big benefits of having a guy like Bregman was, this is the World Series champion, this is a leader. Yeah. And then he gets hurt, and now he's going to be on the bench and stuff, but there's only so much you can do when you're not out there actually helping. So, the fact that you've got your best, highest paid player, Rafi Devers, who doesn't speak to a whole lot of people, doesn't seem like, or at least not the English-speaking players. And then a guy like Bregman now going to have to shift to a different role for at least about a third of the season, it sounds like. It's rough times up in Boston there, Grant.
Yeah. So I don't know what you would say about the times in Madison, but it's official visit season. 2 minutes on what we should look for and what we should be following for Badgers football the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, really big official visit weekend, this weekend and next weekend. The two positions I think are the biggest kind of, I'm keeping my eye on would be running back. Amari Latimer is a guy that's, I think he's a 4-star, at least on one of the sites, and then consensus 3-star and more likely going to move up. He's in town. And then DJ Ba is a defensive lineman they've got in town this week. That is going to be, I think, their number one priority. And I think if there's a guy that you would say like they quote unquote need to lock up this week, that would be the one, because I think D-line has done a pretty good job the last few years recruiting out of high school and doing it. We'll see how they did in the transfer portal once we get to the fall. But I think that's a spot that from the high school rank, and DJ Ba is a guy that's got pretty much the whole Big Ten after him. And I think if they were able to swing him, they got him to make his official visit to Wisconsin first, which is typically a good sign. You never know quite what a kid's thinking, but historically it's been a good sign that you get the first official visit. So I think that those are the two guys I would kind of circle for this weekend.
Madison in the summer, you got to show well. If you can't sell kids on the campus and the program right now, this time of year with how beautiful and how nice it is, I mean, it's a great place to be. Then you just can't do it. Are you tailgating tonight? What's the plan? What's the move?
We're actually staying at the hotel like right next to the stadium, so we're just going to walk over after we get a bite to eat.
Oh, that rules. Well, enjoy the game. I am jealous. Best of luck to your Red Sox. These games might be futile like the ones yesterday, so it might be but that's fine. Us baseball sickos, we can find a way to enjoy that.
Exactly. Grant, I appreciate you giving me time to really show my true passion of just complaining about the Red Sox and giving my wife a 15-minute break of listening to me complain about them.
No, of course. I appreciate it, Colten. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks, Rob.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Last couple of minutes. Appreciate Colten Bartholomew, Chuck Freimund joining me earlier today on Bill's show. The interviews are good. Always worth replaying. Also, I can only wrangle so many people to do interviews. I only have so much in me. I can only ask so many favors. So sometimes, especially if it's topical. We're going to connect with Mike Clemens later this week as OTAs are beginning. Everyone's kind of converging in Green Bay. Media availability tomorrow. So we'll have some press conference audio to sift through, and no doubt, I'm sure they will ask about Jaire and the report today from Matt Schneidman that the Packers reached out to Jaire about a contract restructure, which isn't surprising. It just hadn't happened yet. We assumed that it at some point would happen. I didn't expect the Packers just cut him loose without making some sort of attempt to get him to come play for cheaper. I think the Packers really would have loved to trade him. My read on the situation in 30 seconds, Packers would have loved to trade him. They couldn't. Jaire's camp probably would have loved to learn that his value around the league was higher if he were to be cut, and it wasn't. So now these two sides are staring at each other. It's like, okay, our best path forward might be together, the two of us. We just got to figure out what that looks like. And maybe it can't look a certain way. Maybe the Packers aren't willing to pay Jaire Alexander even 50% of this contract. 50% of his contract could be like $8 or $9 million a year, probably plus some incentives, because if he plays well, the Packers are probably fine paying it. You know what I mean? The Packers were fine paying him this when he was healthy and playing well. The issue isn't his play. I don't really think the issue is him, although I'm sure they have some qualms. It's been that he's been hurt. So would the Packers be willing to pay him $10 million this year? Would he take it? I think he would take 10. Would he take 8? Would he take 6? Right? This is the type of thing that we're going to have to navigate, presumably before mandatory minicamp, because Jaire wants to come for that. He was told that even without the contract, he's going to show up for that. And I think the Packers are like, the hell you will. On this deal, you are not stepping foot on the field for us because we won't want to assume the liability, which I think is exactly what Jaire wants. It's like, yeah, that's the point. Either cut me or give me a new deal, or I'm going to show up because I'm under contract and I'm on this team and I want my money, and I'm going to force your hand. I think that's what he's doing by saying, well, I'll show up even without a new contract. I think he knows the Packers will probably not allow that. So that gives them a little bit of a harder deadline. But maybe the Packers, maybe this is all Fugazi, and they're going to cut him post June 1 anyways, in which case we'll only have to wait until later this weekend to see if that's the case. Appreciate you hanging out. Chuck Freimund was fun. Colten Bartholomew, great as always. Enjoy Brewers Red Sox tonight. You're more than prepared now getting the Red Sox side of this rivalry from Colten. And we'll be back to talk about it all and some Packers OTA stuff tomorrow at 4. Cannot wait. Podcast will go up in just a couple minutes. Thanks for listening.